Twin Peaks is very much watch it by release date rather than
right
story chronology.
Yeah, even though it's a prequel, I definitely wait until you watch seasons 1 and 2 before watching Firewalk with Me.
Well, it does this weird thing, and I realized this actually. I rewatched it just last night after not seeing it for a couple of years, and it does this weird thing where it's both a chronological prequel but an emotional sequel. You know, it's
a really good way of putting it.
Yeah, it sort of wraps up the emotional arc of those first 2 seasons without giving you much more in the plot department. Which I think the first time you see it, it's kind of frustrating because you're asking, where the hell is Dale? Why aren't they going to wrap up what happened with the Black Lodge at the end of season 2? Why are we revisiting the scene of the crime that we were already given answers to, right? I mean, halfway through season 2, they tell you what happens. You just lack a certain amount of context. But then you watch it again, especially in the wake of season 3, and you're like, oh, no, this was sort of a redemption arc for Laura. You know, this is about her taking over agency of her life, essentially, in when her father ends up killing her, and it gives you more context in terms of what was happening with Leland at the time, and it does give you a few glimpses into the future too, with Dale trapped in the lodge and that weird flashback, flash forward scene with Laura's dream. But I think you're right. The first time you watch it, you have a lot more questions, like why would Lynch decide to tell a story like this in that way? But after you watch season 3...
Why is Heather Graham there?
Yes.
It was, for me, the big one. Like, why is Heather Graham here? Is it just because she was in the series and she felt like she had to be part of this? What is the deal?
Yes.
But yeah, you're absolutely right about that, because Laura was such an enigma in the show. You know, the show starts out with Laura being dead. So...
And you kind of have to fill in the blanks.
We don't know anything
afterward.
about her. Right. And you find yourself throughout the series really feeling emotionally attached to this character that you don't know anything about, and then the movie comes along and then you become really, really emotionally attached to her, and she breaks your heart, and you just absolutely love her, and you're watching this movie and you're thinking, I really want good things for you, but I know they're not going to happen.
Well, in a real complicated way too, though, because she does some stuff in this movie where it's like, oh, this is not just the prom queen, you know?
No, you actually get... And because it's an R-rated movie, you know, they were able to do a lot of the things that the network TV, obviously because of broadcast and standards, you couldn't. There's no way in hell you could get away with that, especially back in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
So
well, even in today's
Lynch could tell the story he wanted to tell.
Yeah, and even in today's climate of us being more aware of sexual assault, sexual predators. The inequity in the inequity of the genders, the fact that what we're seeing is high school kids is, you know, you probably couldn't get away with it now anyway because of that, because it's just so, you know, we're so much more aware of how wrong that is.
Right.
It's, you know, it's not just the boobies. It's the concept that there's a guy who is running drugs across the border and using teenagers as prostitutes. I mean, it's like, that's almost worse than boobies.
Oh yeah.
So,
for sure.
I mean, no, it's
Definitely
worse than
worse.
boobies for real, but it's almost worse than for booby. It's almost worse for the censors too.
Right.
You know?
Right.
That, you know, because usually boobies are the kiss of death for everything, but this is even worse than that.
So, I mean, here's a sort of thought I've always had about Lynch, a question, I suppose, and I'd love to get your guys' opinions on this. I mean, did he plan all of this out, including season 3, and that's why everything makes sense later? Or is he just a master of making you want more? You know what I mean? Just like writing a soap opera that just never ends kind of thing.
Well, that's kind of his thing, is that especially if you've watched season 3, you know, and without going into any spoilers, really, he hates the idea of the mystery ending. That's his whole thing, is that even when, you know, with the whole thing with Laura being, you know, the whole resolution with Leland being revealed as the killer of Laura and that being essentially dealt with, he ended the original series in season 2 with a mystery, with a one hell of a cliffhanger that left Xan and I screaming for 25 plus years, going, you need to resolve this.
Sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively.
And I think it's because of that cliffhanger that's what I think has kept Twin Peaks fandom alive,
Right.
and that's what pushed that demand all these years later for a season 3, because we wanted to see more. We needed answers. We needed Cooper out of the damn Black Lodge already.
Yeah,
and even then, we got another cliffhanger ending in season 3 without going into payoffs. That doesn't really get resolved.
I don't know if I would call that a cliffhanger. I don't know.
I would, because
we would.
it literally asks the question and then goes black.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Without going into the spoilers here, obviously, but
Man, yeah, I find that last episode. Well, okay, here's how I see it. The plot of season 3 ends in episode 17, and episode 18 is sort of this coda,
Right,
yeah.
where it's like this is like a surreal like thought experiment about what if XYZ happened.
But it also continues the mystery, because there's like, okay, they're in this place. They have no idea where they are and what happens next. And that whole thing, I know I'm kind of dancing around this.
This is so hard to talk about, I know.
It is very
I don't
hard
think
to
it's going to make a difference to me, personally.
But the point is that, yeah, it just, Lynch, if he found a way to continue the mystery and also frustrate fans enough that we are dying for a season 4 right now.